Hello there and welcome back to another edition of the Hot Lap Classic Remastered. This time we take a look at the 1998 Mazda RX-7 Type RS. This is the final RX-7 to take on the course, and it feels like a lineage that has lasted forever. There are about 20 RX-7s in this game, but to be fair, that list is nowhere near as exhaustive as the amount of Imprezas or Skylines in this game, and yet this one seems to have felt the longest for some reason. I think it's because I sort of didn't realise to get on with the RX-7s quite so quickly as I did with the Skylines and the Imprezas, where I really knew I had to move through them at a pretty sort of good pace, otherwise they were all going to mount up at the end, whereas these sort of seemingly have done that. So, but either way, this is the final one. This is, in theory, the quickest of all of them, and for a reason I'm going to explain in a second, I'm going to explain why that isn't going to be true. What I can tell you is this is the 98, which means it has the option of 2 race mods. You can have the sort of generic looking stacker livery that we've seen, the silver sort of gold stripe and then the blue at the bottom, or it can be red at the top. And also this Super Taikyu livery, which is a BP livery. I'm not a huge fan of either of them, to be perfectly honest. I'm sure this livery has a lot of fans, but for me, it's a little bit generic. I'm not a huge fan of sort of black race car liveries to begin with. They need to have quite a sort of extensive pattern going on, and this one doesn't really have that, so not a huge fan. So this is the most powerful RX-7 you can buy. 643 horsepower. Now, RX-7s have gone pretty well around this course. A lot of them are in the under 30 club. However, a lot of those that have done really well have had power around 500 horsepower. And what we found, especially with these later 98 cars that do have more power isn't necessarily making them any quicker. It's just making them harder to control. So this should really be the sort of peak of that. So I'm not expecting this to be a pleasant time driving this around, but I guess we'll find out. Front-engined rear-wheel drive, 643 horsepower, 1,093 kilos. That is also very, very light, which contributes to the problem. It's also got quite a lot of torque for a rotary, so yeah, none of these are good things that I'm saying, as much as they sound like they should be. Anyways, to find out how the Mazda RX-7 Type RS gets along, it is going to get 6 laps of the Motorsports Land track in order to set the best time it possibly can. Our current leader is the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak version. That car set a time of 25.696. This one is unlikely to beat that, obviously. In terms of where this is going to go, the quickest RX-7 was the Ifini Type RB96. That's at a 29.3, which clears it from the second quickest RX-7, which is the A-Spec. Science still cannot explain why the Type RB was as quick as it was. But the A-Spec sort of tells you everything you need to know. That car had exactly 500 horsepower. Very controllable, very good to drive, and that ran quite a long time ago. So, in comparison, the RX-7 GTC ran a 29.575, and that car, 29.575, yeah, 29.595. So it was not that much slower. However, that car had 675 horsepower. So, yeah, and that car was a bastard. So, I'm not really sure. This feels okay-ish at the moment. Obviously, we've sort of set a 29.765 banker. For this to become the quickest 98 RX-7, I think it is set at 29.646. And if it does do that, then it will sort of cast a doubt on everything I've just said about power and RX-7s not driving too well. And it does that. Okay, cool. Well, that's nice. Nice to know I can't predict a single thing in this series anymore. I mean, in theory, obviously if you used to sort of gather this up and drive it well enough, this should obviously be the sort of quickest one. This and the GTC. But yeah, for it to do that, I'm very impressed. I'm hoping I can get another good lap out. It didn't actually even feel all that fast sort of driving it around, to be honest. So. But no, this is very quick, very good rear-wheel drive cars. They're very sort of consistently good, to be honest. Taking to that runoff was a huge mistake. Some may even call it massive. We're just going to drift on this final lap, apparently. This could go quicker. I mean, I'm not shocked because it's a hugely powerful rear-wheel drive car, so of course it could go quicker. Most of them can. But yeah, for it to be the second quickest normal RX-7, it's mighty impressive. It does have to be said. Very impressive, actually. Good car. Good job, RX-7. Like I say, I really was not expecting that, to be honest. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of time in that. I thought I had a really bad Sector 2 on that sort of quickest lap, but maybe that's just the way you sort of control this, because anyway out, you're just going to sort of spin out and all the power's going to go away, so yeah. But either way, very good time from a not particularly great car, it does have to be said, but no, it's done its job. Science still can't explain why the Type RB 96 was as quick as it was, but I can at least explain this one. A 29.461 will place this into 149th place. Goes in between the Toyota Supra CDMA 1 Turismo and the Corolla Rally Car, both cars that ran a long time ago. It is quicker than a Camaro SS, which is a far better car than this is. It's quicker than a C55 AMG, which is a far better car than this is. Quicker than a Subaru Forester, Lancia Delta Integrale Evo. Again, sort of 0.1 up on the RX-7 A-Spec. Same for the Lister Storm V12. It's quicker than the RX-7 GTC. To be fair to it, it is far better to drive than the RX-7 GTC, and that didn't have race mod as well. Yeah, that was quite good. I'm quite happy I never have to drive one of these again. But I'm quite happy I could give this car a good send-off, because ultimately these have actually been really nice driving cars. And this sort of proves again, you know, even with 640 horsepower, there are far worse rear-wheel drive cars. You could drive a Fairlady, which is terrible, or a Corvette, which isn't much better, or a TVR Cerbera, which has like 100 less horsepower than this and no way near the grip this has. So, yeah, you can definitely do worse. But if I was you, I would say I would just have the RX-7 A-Spec and the 91 RX-7 with like 430 horsepower. Sure, it might not be as outright quick, but they are so much nicer to drive, and they're just much more fun and easy to get along with. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Join me next time when I'll be driving something completely different. Until then, farewell.